I would like to ask everyone, good afternoon. Can we please have our seats? Our panelists, the moderator is here. We're all full. Please use the first row first and then the second row. We want to take pictures and would love to have a full room picture. It's going to be nicer. Thank you for coming. It's going to be 1 more minute and we're starting, and we have people online watching us. So, ahlan wa sahlan. We have interpretation. So please use interpretation devices if you need it. It's available on the side of the table. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm just substituting for a minute. It seems our moderator lost his way. Please note that we have interpretation. If you need interpretation, it's available on the side of your tables again. And we have some reports and fact sheets about the Arab region that are available on the first table. Also, please make sure on your way out to get some. And it's a pleasure to have all of you here and virtually. Actually, we have also a group of audience and participants from all over the world. Welcome to our side event. For the sake of time, our side event is Food Systems Transformation Amid a Polycrisis, Addressing Climate, Food Insecurity, Malnutrition, and Conflicts. Of course, I would like to just point out that this event is co-organized by the Arab Organization for Agricultural Development, the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, ESCWA, the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, Sida, the Coalition of Action on Healthy Diets from Sustainable Food Systems for Children and All, the Social Protection Coalition, the Climate Resilient Food Systems Alliance, and the Humanitarian-Development-Peace Nexus Coalition. I think our facilitator is here, Dr. Ibrahim al-Dukhairi. Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ibrahim al-Dukhairi, the Director General of the Arab Organization for Agricultural Development. Now we are here as part of the United Nations Food Systems Transformation session on stock taking in its second phase. And we are here holding this side event under the second, or the food systems transformation in or engulfed in many crises. We need to address the climate change, issues of food insecurity, malnutrition, and conflict. We have a number of distinguished panelists and speakers, and I'm glad to be the moderator. Sorry for being late. And just let me thank you all for being here, even ahead of the moderator himself. We have representatives of the UN, international organizations, state actors. So it's a pleasure to welcome you all and to go directly into the session. When we say that food systems transformation engulfed in many crises, that means it requires also many responses. And just by saying that there is a growing recognition of the frightening interconnected risks the world is facing, we mean that we need to think about efficient, inclusive, sustainable, and resilient food systems. So any one of these characteristics that we are looking for to be part of the food systems that we are looking for is in fact addressing a number of constraints that hinder us from achieving any of these adjectives. So with that, there are some very frightening news. If we look to the global report on food crisis 2023, it estimates that over 250 million people were acutely food insecure and require urgent food assistance in 58 food crisis countries or territories in 2022. And this is the fourth consecutive year of rising numbers of people facing food insecure. This is very frightening. Conflicts, national and global economic shocks, on the other hand, and weather extremes continue to be increasingly intertwined, feeding into one another and creating a huge negative effects on acute food insecurity and malnutrition for all. So with that, we will call upon some of our key speakers and panelists to look into this context and provide their experiences and their take away for us as part of the contribution to this stock-taking moment. And I have already laid the context. And let me just start straight by introducing the first speaker. To give her opening statements, Dr. Rola Dashti, Under-Secretary General and Executive Secretary of the UN Economic and Social Commission for West Asia. And Your Excellency, you have 3 to 4 minutes max.
Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. Good morning, everyone. In Yemen, 17 million people suffer from acute food insecurity due to prolonged violent conflict and economic hardship. Somalia and Ethiopia, gripped by severe droughts and political instability, stand the risk of famine. And in Sudan, against the backdrop of violence and severe inflation, the devastating impact of flooding has left 19 million people grappling with food insecurity. Distinguished guests and colleagues, I stand before you today, united in the common cause of transforming our food system within a context marked by a polycrisis involving economic recessions, climate change, and violent conflict. These interwoven crises, potent alone, become even more devastating when combined, casting a distressing shadow over human welfare, particularly in vulnerable nations. Since 2020, there has been a tangible global decline in food security and nutrition. The figures are grim. 735 million people experienced food insecurity in 2022. 150 million children are stunted, and over 3.1 billion people cannot afford a healthy diet. Projections for 2030 estimate that 600 million people will continue to grapple with hunger, 119 million more than before COVID-19 pandemic. Recent actions like the termination of the Black Sea grain deal by the Russian Federation threaten to propel global wheat and bread prices further, pushing millions more into food insecurity and jeopardizing food aid to vulnerable nations such as Yemen and Somalia. Dear colleagues, the hard-won progress of recent decades in human development and food security is now under threat. We must act to ensure that no child goes to sleep hungry or suffers from malnutrition. We must act now so that everyone has access to the food they need to lead a healthy and productive life. Our responsibility then is to begin with fortifying our humanitarian responses, supporting small producers and local food systems, and promoting nutritious, healthy diets throughout the value chain. It requires fostering inclusive and equitable trade, implementing comprehensive social protection schemes to reduce inequality, and adopting sustainable practices to enhance disaster risk management. Above all, it necessitates the assurance of peace, stability, social cohesion, and that nutritious food is not a luxury for the few, but a right for all. Our policies need to evolve, moving beyond mere production maximization to nutrition optimization, transforming our food systems, while an enormous challenge is certainly within our reach. Our commitment to sustainable agriculture must underscore climate-smart methods, waste reduction, and championing biodiversity. Approaches like agroecology, conservation agriculture, and precision farming are just a few examples. The transformation task demands a holistic, multi-sectoral approach and a united front composed of countries, NGOs, and regional and international organizations. It requires that we listen to the voices of those most affected, harness science and innovation, fund humanitarian responses, and development goals adequately, and base our decisions on solid evidence. Ultimately, this transformation requires governance structures that are not just resilient, but equitable and just, ensuring a fair and inclusive path forward. In closing, on behalf of ESCWA, I extend my gratitude to Sida and all our partners. We reaffirm our commitment to a transformation that fosters more sustainable, resilient, healthy, and inclusive food system. A transformation that not only feeds the world, but nourishes it. Together, we can shape a world where access to needed food is universal, where hunger and poverty are banished, and where dreams are nurtured alongside the hope for a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your intervention, which is really very comprehensive and complete, addressing quite a number of challenges and also paving the ground for some possible and plausible interventions that might help to rectify the situation. So thank you very much. It was the plan that we will go around for a number of interventions for a couple of minutes on the experiences from some of the key actors in the room and from the country teams also on the food system transformation. But let me do a little bit of an adjustment here. We have also 3 other panelists. I hope all of them are here. We complete this round of panel discussion and then open the ground or open the floor for interventions as far as we can go or as far as the time permits us to do. So with that, let me just say that we have in this session some of the distinguished panelists from a diverse range of actors, and I'm delighted to introduce our esteemed panelists as follows. First, we have Her Excellency Dr. Inaya Izzeddin, a member of the Lebanese Parliament, Chairperson of Women and Children, and SDG 2030 Agenda Parliamentary Committee, and National Convener of Lebanon. Your Excellency, thank you very much. And also we have in the room Ms. Karima Al-Hada, Yemen Shadow National Convener, Planning and Liaison Specialist at Scaling Up Nutrition Secretariat, Ministry of Planning and International Cooperation. Okay, there is a video. Okay, we will go for the video. Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, this is José Ramos Horta, President of Timor-Leste, speaking from Dili, Timor-Leste. When dealing with emergency situations caused by prolonged drought or floods, of course, we need to take quick action to feed the people, to clothe the people, to shelter them. But we must not lose sight of the medium to long-term solutions. In this regard, to ensure that vulnerable communities like those of the island developing states, LDCs, least developed countries, landlocked countries, countries that face frequent sudden droughts or floods, we must integrate in every aspect medium to long-term sustainable development goals and ensure the sustainability of these programs. In any region of the world, but particularly in countries in stress, social and economic conditions, social protection across the board and in an integrated fashion is indispensable, absolutely necessary to reach out to all partners to ensure that at the national level, but also in regard to development partners, to contribute towards guaranteeing social protection, individuals and the community level. I thank you, all of you.
Well, thank you very much. Also, the video is another perspective that we are looking at this moment. And let me go ahead straight away by calling upon Dr. Inaya as the Dean to provide her intervention. We will start off by asking you a question, and we may go also by a follow-up question. So, Dr. Inaya, Your Excellency, in a fragile context like Lebanon, where resources may be limited and nutrition face significant challenges, what are the main obstacles or barriers to transform food systems? How is it possible to overcome these obstacles and ensure the success of relevant initiatives from your perspective?
صباح الخير. Of course, let me start with at the conceptual level. I think, and from that level, I think many of the barriers arise from there. I think so far, we don't have, if I don't want to say that we have failed, there is not full success in assimilating what is a food system and what does transformation towards a food, the system thinking entails on us. Unfortunately, in a lot of countries, and maybe even within international organizations, we are still, the term agriculture and food systems is used as synonyms. And we know that agriculture is a very important component and pillar of the food system, but it's not the full system. And also another term is food security. Food security is also used as a synonym for food systems. However, food security is one of the outcomes of food systems, along with three other outcomes that are social, environmental, and economic outcomes. So whenever we talk about food systems and food system transformation, we have to bring in the whole picture about drivers, components, and outcomes in order to understand what are the synergies between the different components, how are we going to make the coordination, collaboration, the trade-offs, and how are we going to manage the resources in a very efficient way, especially when most of our countries in the Arab region are suffering from poor or not solid economic situation. This leads to a lot of structural problems, first at the level of the governance. We know in the food system and food issues, we have multi-stakeholders playing different roles. However, these stakeholders, whether state or non-state, work in silos in a fragmented manner, horizontally and vertically, without having a unified vision of what is a solid, healthy, sustainable, equitable food system is. And here, I think we have to come together in to accept, to coordinate, to have the necessary dialogue to reach and to have a meaningful voice and constructive contribution of every stakeholder that has to take its role in this process. Another barrier is the lack of awareness of how important is the role of the consumers, the people, in shaping the consumption architecture, because this is what is going to send the right signals to the other to stakeholders like the private sector in order to invest in a sustainable way in the food system from production to consumption. And here, let me say that I'm mixing maybe between the strategic and the tactical steps, but I think we need to jump between the two. We have also, we cannot forget, and I have to talk about the role of the civil society and NGOs, which we value a lot, and it's very important. But these also have to come to be part of the picture under a one unified definition of what is a sound and solid and equitable transformation is, in order to save on the resources and to manage them well. Unfortunately, the link between the investment in food and in food production and consumption and its impact on health, economy, productivity, and future human capital is not present in the picture. We have also, in our context in Lebanon, inequalities that already existed are being increasing nowadays in this situation. And we have the balance between the different, the import, the local production, the export has to be reviewed. We have challenges at the level of data collection, data analysis, safety of the food, agricultural practices, pesticides, antibiotic use, and agriculture and livestock. All of these are barriers to the transformation. However, how can we deal with it? I think, of course, first we have to acknowledge that the right to healthy food in a sustainable way, equitable way, and the resilient way is a human right, and that this right is related to provision, and securing this right is related to securing many other rights that are related to this right to a healthy environment, right to health itself, right to so many things. And this is why I think we have to bring all these elements together and a whole of government, whole of society approach to achieve the transformation. In the process, we have to take care of promoting equitable livelihoods, empower the communities. And we were talking about some of the steps yesterday about how school meals, how can we transform humanitarian, form this nexus between humanitarian and development, how it can be a promoter of empowering local communities and provide them with equitable livelihood. It's crucial also to make the right balance between, as we mentioned, the humanitarian and the developmental. And it's important to have effective regulations, legislations, and policies. And here comes the role of the parliaments and legislation in providing the infrastructure and the equitable system. Yes, and the legislative environment and institutional setup for this transformation pathway. And we can explain later on if you need.
Thank you, Dr. Inaya. Very clear that the set of factors that affects the transformation, but you have brought a dimension that's very critical, from need-based programming to right-based programming. So the saying food security is right for everyone. Definitely that has consequences in the way the international community is doing business, and has huge political consequences. So it's good that you brought this up. And let me just go directly to Ms. Karima. Let me pose this question to you, Ms. Karima. Given the complex political situation in Yemen, how has coordination been fostered to address the challenges posed by food and nutrition crisis and climate change impacts? Are there any specific mechanisms, partnerships, or initiatives that have facilitated cooperation in transforming food systems for healthy diet? The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Let me at different levels, to the national and subnational levels. Even the fragmentation will go into the institutions, even of the partners, because of the way of working within these settings. It is very challenging in a work environment that requires an innovative way of working. not only new ways of working, but also they need to be innovative. And I always try to define innovative is the most responsive solutions and mechanisms to work in these settings. And from our experience in Yemen, we believe that believe in bringing change is the core of any initiative or successful initiative. If you believe that you can bring the change and you can bring the stakeholders together around your goals, you will be able to bring the success into this initiative. Otherwise, it will be like too many initiatives that come and go within the country and the settings. These initiatives, to be started, we need clarity of goals. Otherwise, they will not be, good initiatives. Also, because of the political situation and the different aspects of the crisis within the country, it is very important to work on trust building process. It is a process. It is a process because we will start from nothing, and we need to go through different steps and different, phases in this trust building process. Depoliticizing actions is very, very important because eventually we need to serve people and we need to focus on people, regardless of the de facto authorities and the people in power. So for the initiatives to succeed, they need to depoliticize and to focus on mechanisms that will serve people and reach to people also. Multi-sectoral approach and multi-stakeholder, it is something that we need always to focus on, and collective outcomes, they need to be on the table always. This is not an easy job because in country with fragmentations, you will face different partners with different agendas. And we need eventually with multiple mechanisms within the country. You can't eliminate anyone else, but we can collaborate and we can complete each other. So this is a very important message. Let's work together, let's complete each other, and let's bring people, in the core of what we're doing. It is a very good that we have the Nexus approach, the humanitarian-development-peace Nexus. And peace, it brings the peace building and the trust building process should be part of the Nexus. And also, it is an opportunity for the stakeholders to start looking at the challenges that we're facing in a practical way, not theoretical way. This is very important because we're facing two different structures within the country, the humanitarian structure and the development structure. And trying to do development through the humanitarian structure is very challenging. So we need to think of new mechanisms that brings the humanitarian structures and mechanisms within the national systems, which are equivalent to the development structures. So the Nexus, it means we can't do Nexus without multi-year financing. So this is development mechanisms that should be there. New way of working should focus on game changers to maximize the efficiency of fund that's going into the country with very limited funds that going into the country. So we need to focus on the game changers, and the game changers are there. And this is what we have tried to do in Yemen. So we believe that the food system will unify all the people in the country as well as partners. We worked on the food system pathways. We have one national document for fragmented country, worked from everywhere, from different levels, from national, subnational levels. We have this 7 thematic areas with almost 22 priority areas going, from agriculture, fisheries, education, health, social protection, and everything. So we are happy that our partners are aligned with us from the UN and supporting this initiative. It is the national pathways. It is our way, for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Karima, for what you have brought to the table. One more dimension that you have talked about is in a case of a protracted crisis, which then requires some additional effort in the trust building, and it's not an easy thing. And also the depoliticizing the interventions. That's also in a complex conflict situation is something that needs to be worked seriously. And also inclusivity might be a problem. So a part of what we all feel in the course of transforming agri-food systems, context of protracted crisis must do some additional work. With that, let me just very quickly move to Dr. Maria Odeta. Did I pronounce it correct? Thank you very much. The Director General of Agriculture for the Ministry of Agriculture and Fishery. The floor is yours. And let me just pose this question. What is your take and perspective for food systems transformation from where you sit and where you act?
Thank you, Moderator. First of all, I would like to thank you to the WFP headquarters as well as WFP of Timor-Leste for providing this opportunity to participate in this side event. As we just recently show how the interest of our Excellency Minister Ramos Horta highlighted the importance of agriculture in Timor-Leste and what are the drivers that given the impact to agriculture sector. But in this occasion, I would like to introduce that in terms of Timor-Leste food system transformation, as we have our national pathway, but in this time we also prepare our action plans of the food system, which is we work together in collaboration with our development partners, national, international agencies, civil society, academic, and other stakeholders that we are together prepare our action plans for our food system in Timor-Leste. Regard to this agriculture sector, as a Timor-Leste is agrarian country, 64% of the people are engaging in agriculture sector, which is the system still a subsistence, and only a little part of this are oriented to the market. Regards to the challenges that Timor-Leste facing with food system transformation, we are considering that Timor-Leste, as you are aware, that's just recently 20 years independence, so we still a young country, which is we came from the post-conflict and also some critical challenges which can transform into its national food system. The main challenges for food system in agriculture system is a limitation of the infrastructure and technology. Timor-Leste faces challenges in developing and maintaining efficient agricultural infrastructure and adopting modern technology for production, storage, and distribution of food. The lack of proper transportation and storage facilities result in significant of loss. It's about 20% of loss in harvest and also insufficient in the supply chain. In terms of food insecurity and malnutrition, the country struggles with food insecurity is about 22% acute and 36% chronic. And malnutrition is the high percentage of malnutrition, which is about 47% of malnutrition, according to the 2022 assessment of the malnutrition. This malnutrition happen among vulnerable population, such as children and pregnant women, and also ensuring the adequate access to nutrition food and addressing malnutrition related issues are essential to successful food transformation. The sustainable agriculture practices, we are encouraging a sustainable and environmental friendly agriculture practices is a challenge, and also given the limited resources and traditional farming methods prevalent to the country. Adopting practices that promote resilience to climate change and protect natural resources is crucial for the long-term viability for the foods. As recently highlighted by our president, the issue of the unexpected drought and also flooding is the main case for the agriculture sector in Timor-Leste. So what are the linkages between social protection and food system in Timor-Leste? To address nutritional challenges by global shocks and crises, the Timor-Leste government, particularly to the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, Ministry of Education, and also the Ministry of Social Solidarity and Inclusion, have implemented specific social assistance programs that foster linkages between social protection and the food system. One of these is the cash transfer programs. The government have implemented cash transfer programs that provide vulnerable households with financial support, financial support to support vulnerable people. And also our program for the school feeding program is providing the hot meal to the schools as a pilot, but the amount of this is very low, is about 25 cents to 40 cents of American dollar to our people. And also the agriculture subsidized input, the government still maintain the policy to support our farmers by subsidizing agricultural inputs, and also capacity building as a training for our extension workers, as well as people who working in the social side. And also we have also our disaster preparedness to respond integrated social mechanism with disaster preparedness to response plans to help community cope with the shocks of natural disasters as well as pandemic. Government Timor-Leste is working with the partners for disaster preparedness.
Can you conclude, please?
Yes. In conclusion, Timor-Leste is, in terms of food system transformation, we work more particularly on how to encourage people to reinforce the food system cycles, start from the production, distribution, storage, up to consumption. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, thank you very much for your intervention. And we have less than 10 minutes. We will reserve that for the floor. So if you can limit your intervention just 1 minute, that will help us to give at least 6 or 7 of those in the room to intervene. And let me just go straight by calling upon you very quickly. Okay, just go ahead, and then we'll come to His Excellency, the Minister here. Inshallah.
My name is Moiz Shohdi. I'm the founder of the Food Banking Regional Network. The Food Banking Regional Network is an umbrella of 52 food banks founded in 52 countries. Our food banking model was designed in 2006. I believe it's a complete prescription for ending hunger. First pillar, we feed the needy unable to work. Second, we educate, develop, and qualify the needy able to work for jobs. All our programs are sustainable. We started saving food from waste and loss since 2006 with a very simple, comprehensive manual how to handle cooked food safely. And successfully, we reached saving 112 million meals a month to feed the needy. Our programs are monthly feeding, school feeding. We design it to serve the community as it needs. Our fifth pillar is engaging community. We want to give the awareness to all people. And when we develop or launch a food bank in any country, we implement the whole pillars. The last pillar is investments, like endowments, for these NGOs to sustain. We have investments, the food banks own breeding farms, dairy product farms, packing factories, etc., to generate enough income to ensure sustainability. One of the successful
Thank you.
programs, just less than a minute, we convinced the ministries of education to include a lesson in the reading book of year 3. Title is the food bank. We want to educate the kids about food waste reduction, volunteering, serving the community. I believe this is how we should look to the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your intervention, Your Excellency, Dr. Katana, the Minister of
شكراً لكم.
Agriculture of Syria. تفضل.
شكرا لكم. سوف أكون صريحا بعض الشيء، لأننا منذ أكثر من 30 عاما ونحن نتكلم بالأمن الغذائي، ولكن حتى الآن لم نستطع أن نحققه في معظم البلدان العربية. وبالتالي أخشى اليوم نتحدث عن النظم الغذائية ونتحدث عن برامج ومشاريع لمعالجة أثر التغيرات المناخية، وأن نصل بعد 20 عاما إلى نفس الزاوية التي وصلنا بها في موضوع معالجة المشاكل المتعلقة بالأمن الغذائي. لذلك يعني لابد أن نجد سبلا يعني أكثر جدية بموضوع تأمين التمويل لتنفيذ المشاريع التي يتم إقرارها ضمن الاجتماعات المتكررة التي يتم عقدها من خلال المنظمات وكل الاجتماعات الدولية أو العربية أو إلى آخره، وأن يتم توطين فكر واضح لدى كل دولة كيف يتم معالجة مبدأ النظم الزراعية، كما يتم طرحه كأفكار، كيف يمكن أن نحول هذه الأفكار إلى مشاريع وأن تنفذ على الأرض وأن يكون لها أثرا إيجابيا على الناس والمجتمع. النقطة الأخرى، خلال اليومين بالأمس واليوم سمعنا أرقام متباينة ومتضاربة حول عدد جياع في العالم، عدد الأشخاص الذين لم يحققوا الأمن الغذائي. هل يوجد مرصد وطني ومرصد عالمي ليحدد لنا ما هو الرقم الحقيقي لهؤلاء؟ يعني حتى الآن هناك تضارب الأرقام وهناك زيادات. لدينا مناخ متوتر، نقول وقعنا اتفاقية المناخ، لكن الحروب ما زالت والنزاعات ما زالت والحرائق ما زالت والأرض تلتهب بارتفاع درجات الحرارة، ونحن ننتظر أن نعالج أثر التغيرات المناخية بمشاريع تنموية لا يمكن تنفيذها إلا بتوفير التمويل الكبير جدا لتمكين الدول التي لا تستطيع أن تمول مثل هذه المشاريع لأن تحقق الغاية من دخولها في اتفاقية المناخ. لذلك عندما نبحث عن موضوع الأمن الغذائي، لأن الإنسان هو الأساس، يجب أن نبتعد عن تسييس الأمور، ويجب أن نوفر التمويل. يجب أن يكون لدينا مرصد للحصول على أرقام دقيقة للوصول إلى وضع سياسات صحيحة توضع بتصرف الدول لتستطيع هذه الدول أن تنفذ البرامج، ونتكامل نتعاون داخليا ثم على مستوى الإقليم ثم على المستوى العالمي لتحقيق الأهداف التنمية المستدامة والأهداف التي وضعت لكل برنامج من هذه البرامج.
شكرا معاليك. هناخذ من الصايد ده وبعدين نرجع تاني إن شاء الله لك يا دكتور نصر. في كان يد مرفوعة هناك. تفضل دكتور نصر.
بسم الله. أنا كان عندي الحقيقة يعني مداخلة طويلة عريضة، لكن حددت الوقت بدقيقة واحدة. هذه الدقيقة لا شك بأشكر الحقيقة الدكتورة رولا ونائبة الأمين العام والمديرة التنفيذية الحقيقة الإسكوا، التي تقدم وتدعم كل المبادرات الخلاقة والمفيدة لما يحقق الحقيقة الأمن الغذائي. وكان هناك سلسلة كبيرة بدعوة السادة الوزراء والمشاركين في اجتماعات متتالية الحقيقة حول النظم الغذائية والبديلة اللي نحن نؤكد عليها بشكل كبير جدا. شكر للمنظمة العربية أيضا السباقة دائما، وهذا الحضور العظيم وهذه الخبراء والفنيين المشاركين. لابد عندما ننظر إلى نظم غذائية بديلة لابد أن ننظر إلى زراعات بديلة. لابد من الزراعات. يعني الأخت نايا حكت بشكل واضح أنه ليست الزراعة هي كل شيء بالنسبة للأمن الغذائي وتقليصها. معالي وزير الزراعة حكى بشكل واضح وشفاف جدا. أنا أقول يجب علينا أن نبحث عن زراعات بديلة لإيجاد نظم غذائية بديلة متنوعة في ظل كل التحديات التي أصبحت واضحة للعيان بالنسبة لنا جميعا. معاليك، لا بد من التشابك، لا بد من التعاون والتآزر بين كل الهيئات والمنظمات المحلية والوزارات، القطاع العام والقطاع الخاص لتحقيق أهداف التنمية المستدامة، وأنا مؤمن بها تماما. وعلى رأسها الهدف ال17 إيجاد هذه الشراكات بيننا جميعا في ظل التغيرات المناخية التي تعصف في منطقتنا العربية. وشكرا.
شكرا جزيلا. You mean it's over? 2 more minutes. Okay. One minute. Dr. Fadi, 1 minute, half a minute, and then I will take half a minute also. Go ahead.
أنا اسمي فادي جبر، أمين عام الاتحاد العربي للصناعات الغذائية. لا شك تغير المناخ، الحروب، النزاعات مؤثرة جدا، لكن الهجرة الداخلية في الوطن الواحد هي الأصعب من وجهة نظرنا لسبب واحد زي ما حكت سيدة عناية. ماذا نفتح في المصانع اليوم؟ الطلب كمان 5 سنوات يختلف عن هذا الطلب بهذا العام. لازم نشوف إحصاءات، يجب أن نسوي بنك معلومات ماذا سوف يأكل المواطن بعد 5 سنوات علشان نعرف احنا نخطط له. مع الشكر الجزيل.
شكرا سيد إبراهيم، شكرا لجميع من تحدث اليوم. ولكن يعني هناك بعض الأمور التي لم نقرب صوبها بشكل صريح. مثلا نحن نتكلم الآن عن النظم الغذائية، والدكتورة عناية قد قالت لنا أن مفهوم النظم الغذائية يختلف من مكان إلى آخر، من مجموعة إلى مجموعة أخرى ضمن الوطن الواحد. وأنا أقول لكم أنه حتى ضمن عائلة الأمم المتحدة هناك مفاهيم مختلفة لما نطلق عليه اسم النظم الغذائية. ولكن يعني علينا، أنا يعني فكرت أنه خلال هذا اللقاء سوف نتكلم بشكل دقيق أكثر عن تجارب، وأريد أن أقول أنه الكلام العام لا مكان له بعد اليوم عندما نعمل على موضوع الأزمات. لنتذكر أن الغذاء أو النظم الغذائية قد تكون ضحية للحروب والأزمات، وقد تكون سلاح في الحروب والأزمات. ونتذكر أيضا أن عندما تقع الأزمة يصبح في عندنا نظامين غذائيين متساويين، نظام مبني على كل العطاءات التي تأتينا بالطائرات وبالبواخر من الخارج، ونصبح نحن مدمنين عليها. ورأينا هذا في العراق ببرنامج النفط مقابل الغذاء، والنظم المحلية التي علينا أن ننميها ونقويها.
شكرا.
وأريد أن في المستقبل نتحدث أكثر ونفتح هذه العلبة أكثر ونعمل خلالها أكثر.
شكرا جزيلا. تفضلي in half a minute.
شكرا جزيلا السيد الرئيس. السلام عليكم. اوكي شكرا جزيلا السيد الرئيس، والسلام عليكم الحضور الكريم. ويمكن كلنا نعلم انه لحظة تقييم النظم الغذائية بتعقد في ظروف معقدة جدا جدا، ما فيها الصراعات والحروب وتغير المناخ، ودي كلها تأثر على النظم الغذائية. وخير مثال لها ما يشهده السودان الآن، وكل قطاعاته تأثرت وخاصة قطاع النظم الغذائية. رغم هذا السودان كان بادر بإعداد خطة متكاملة لتحويل النظم الغذائية وفيها برامج وتدخلات كثيرة. المطلوب هو توفر الموارد المالية لتنفيذ هذه الاستراتيجية. نأمل إنه هذه التدخلات متى ما الصراع أو الحالة استقرت تؤدي هذه إلى الأمن والاستقرار. وشكرا جزيلا للسيد الرئيس. معلش.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. And just the take-home message, as in the face of the crisis of food insecurity, a robust poly response is not just an option, but is an imperative. Thank you very much, and thank you for organizers of CAGA.
Thank you, Dr. Dukhairi, for facilitating this session. And sorry about the time limitation. Just another reminder, we have some studies here about our region.